Hey crafty friends, it's Joy here for Honeybee Stamps, and today I created this fun watercolor card using the Spring Wreath stamp and die. So in my MISTI, I have a square piece of watercolor cardstock, and this measures 4 3/4 inches, I believe. And I'm going to stamp my wreath down. I'm going to be stamping this twice actually. Once with no line coloring ink because I just kind of want a hint of where this image is going to be, because we're going to create a background that goes with and matches our wreath itself. So that's what I'm stamping here. I'm going to stamp that a couple times, and then I can take this out, and then I'm going to grab another piece of cardstock, and I'm going to do some white heat embossing. So I'm inking that up with my Watermark clear embossing ink. Honeybee Stamps has a clear ink, but my ink pad broke, like my felt fell out, so that's why I'm using Watermark ink. And I'm gonna stamp that a couple times, and then I'm gonna sprinkle on my white embossing powder, and I'm going to heat that. So this is going to be the wreath that's going to be on top of our card. The first stamping with the no line coloring is going to be our background to our card. So now that I have that sprinkled on, I have my heat tool heating up, getting nice and hot, and I am going to melt this embossing powder till it's nice and shiny. You're not really going to be able to see it too much because it's white on white, but once we start painting these flowers, you will see it. Now I'm just using some watercolors that I have, and I am just going to start painting these flowers. I'm using some orange, some dark pink, a little bit of red, and a couple of greens. I am not a wonderful watercolor person, but I love using them to color images. A lot of times most of the time I use Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers, but I just got this set of watercolors to try to paint watercolors, and so I'm going to use that today for this. Now, because I've embossed these images, what's cool about this is it contains your medium, so the watercolor, and it kind of wicks away when it lands on the embossing powder itself. So I just dry off my brush if I have any that's sitting on top, and I just grab that up and kind of cleans it off. So super, super easy. Okay, let's do some little pink flowers. I'm going to do a yellow center. I've got 2 different kinds of greens that I'm going to be using, and I was just having so much fun. This was really easy to do. I felt like I was a pro doing this, even though there was absolutely zero skill. But I loved how this turns out, and I love that once you start painting it, you kind of see these flowers come to life, which I think is really, really cool. If you did not want to do embossing powder, just use a watercolor friendly ink, which Honeybee Stamps has, and then you can get this really gorgeous image. I think this spring wreath is so super pretty. It's really simple. There is some other flowers that go along in the stamp set, but I just think it's such a lovely little wreath on its own. And putting it on a square card, it just fits perfectly. Like, you didn't have to fill in any other space, which I really liked. I've been making more square cards lately and have been really enjoying that. Okay, so now I've got my dark green leaves. Now I'm coming in with some light green leaves. Some of them have a vein in them, some of them don't. But isn't this coming together so pretty? Now, this is the image, obviously, that I am going to be using the coordinating dies for. But once I'm done with this, I'm going to set this aside to dry, and then we're going to work on that background piece. So the background piece, the wreath is centered perfectly. I am keeping that piece I just painted as a reference, and I am loosely coming in, obviously, coloring absolutely outside of the lines because I can see where the no line ink is stamped, and I am using the coordinating colors in those areas. So when we lay this wreath on top, it kind of matches the colors in the background, and I want to go really outside of the lines, both inside of the wreath and outside of the wreath. Now, I totally forgot to show myself gluing the wreath down, but I will explain it to you guys. I'm so sorry. I did not have my camera on, and I'm not sure why. But it's super easy. I'm going to dry this. I'm also going to do some splatter with the coordinating colors because I love splatter. It just adds a little something extra to the background, I think. And it turned out really, really pretty. So I'm going to splatter that. Okay, so now I'm using the coordinating die. You have an outside die and then you have an inside die. So I'm going to line that up, tape that in place, and run that through my die cut machine. Then I also used a sentiment from the Mini Messages birthday stamp. I stamped that with black ink because I forgot to show that too. I am going to distress the edges, and I ripped my paper right there. No big deal. I just ripped it on the other side, and once you have it adhered down, it just shows that you have a couple little distressed edges. No big deal. But I'm like, man, but it totally is fine. Here's that sentiment that says, wishing you the happiest day. So this is, yeah, Mini Messages birthday. I'm going to trim that out, and I will put some foam adhesive behind this. I added foam adhesive behind the wreath, and I placed it directly on top of the other wreath background in the same orientation. So look at how cute that looks. So you can see that watercolor kind of bleeding out inside and out. And I just think it's such a fun way to use the watercolor. And you could do this with ink too. So, I mean, it doesn't have to just be watercolor. I added some foam adhesive for my sentiment. I'm going to place that right in the center. This is adhered to a slightly smaller square base. It's about 1/4 of an inch smaller on all sides. And look at how fun that is. I just think this was such a fun, easy card, kind of relaxing, really enjoyable to make. Thank you guys so very much for stopping by and watching. I hope that you enjoyed this project. I hope you feel inspired, and I hope you have an amazing day.